I still remember the exact moment my parents' faces drained of color as I walked across that stage. My younger sister, Jessica, sat frozen in the audience, her proud smile disappearing as the dean's words echoed through the auditorium. None of them had expected this moment, me graduating from Stanford Business School with highest honors, and certainly not the announcement that followed. This year's recipient of the Harrison Excellence Scholarship, who has also accepted a position at McKinsey Company, is Alexandra Chen. The same parents who had told me, "We simply cannot afford your college education," while simultaneously paying full tuition for Jessica's 4 years at USC, were now staring at the stranger their incapable daughter had become. But their shock was nothing compared to what I had planned for the celebration dinner that evening. Let me take you back to where this all began. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. While Jessica was the family princess who could do no wrong, I was expected to handle everything myself. "Alex is so independent," my mother would say whenever I asked for help. "Jessica needs more support." This pattern became crystal clear during my senior year of high school. Despite maintaining a perfect 4.0 GPA, serving as student body president, and working 20 hours a week at a local bookstore, my achievements were met with casual nods. Meanwhile, Jessica's C+ average was celebrated like she'd cured cancer. When college acceptance letters arrived, I had been accepted to my dream schools, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, all with partial scholarships. I walked into what I thought would be the proudest conversation of my parents' lives. Instead, I received the most devastating news imaginable. "Honey," my father said, shuffling papers across our kitchen table, "we need to discuss these college acceptances." My mother couldn't meet my eyes. "We're proud of you, but we need to be realistic about finances. These prestigious schools, even with scholarships, they're just not in our budget." I stared at them in disbelief. "What about the college fund? Grandma always talked about the money she set aside for my education." My parents exchanged a quick glance. "That money had to be reallocated," my father said firmly. "Some family expenses came up. You'll need to consider state schools, Alex." That night, I cried myself to sleep. But I also made a promise to myself. I would find a way forward, with or without their support. I enrolled at the local state university, taking maximum course loads while working 3 part-time jobs. My days started at 5 a.m. with studying, followed by classes until 3 p.m., then work until midnight. I rarely came home during those first 2 years, claiming work commitments during holidays. The truth was, I couldn't bear to see my parents and be reminded of their betrayal. Everything changed during Thanksgiving of my junior year. Jessica was applying to colleges, casually mentioning her top choice, USC, one of the most expensive private universities in California. "We've already put down the deposit," my mother announced proudly. "Jessica deserves the full college experience." I nearly choked on my food. "How are you affording that?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. "We've made some financial arrangements," my father said. "Took out a home equity loan." "A loan for USC, when you couldn't help me with Stanford?" "It's different with Jessica," my mother replied defensively. "She's not as academically gifted as you. She needs the prestigious degree more." That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, I decided I wasn't going to accept their explanations anymore. I was going to discover the truth about our family's finances. Over the next year, I became a detective in my own home. During visits, I systematically photographed financial documents, tax returns, and bank statements. What I found was shocking. Hidden in my father's desk, I discovered documents about an inheritance from my grandmother, over $150,000 specifically designated for my education that I had never known about. There were also records showing my parents had substantial savings and investments, completely contradicting their claims of financial hardship. Most damning were the credit card statements showing Jessica's shopping sprees, expensive spring break trips, and luxury apartment furnishings, all funded directly by my parents. In 1 year, they had spent more on Jessica's college lifestyle than my entire education cost. This wasn't about money. This was about choice. They had chosen to invest everything in Jessica while leaving me to struggle alone. I needed more than just anger. I needed a strategy. I quietly began taking additional finance courses while working even more hours to save money. To my parents, this looked like I was struggling to find direction after graduation. In reality, I was preparing for something much bigger. When my finance professor, Dr. Williams, noticed my exceptional analytical skills, he became a mentor. Under his guidance, I secretly applied to prestigious MBA programs. His connections opened doors I never could have accessed alone. The day I received my acceptance letter to Stanford Business School with a full scholarship was both triumphant and bittersweet. I had achieved what seemed impossible, but I couldn't share my joy with my family. For 2 years, I told them I was taking continuing education courses in San Francisco while working remotely. Technically true, but deliberately vague. During this time, I excelled beyond even my own expectations. I graduated summa cum laude, was selected for the prestigious Harrison Scholarship, and secured a coveted position at McKinsey Company with a starting salary that exceeded my parents' combined income. Throughout this period, my communication with family remained minimal. Jessica had graduated from USC with mediocre grades and no job prospects. My parents funded her expensive apartment while she found herself through various failed ventures, a food blog, an attempted modeling career, a brief stint at a nonprofit that ended when she stopped showing up. Jessica just needs time to find her passion, my mother would explain during our rare phone calls. As my graduation approached, I debated whether to invite my family. Finally, I decided they should witness this moment, not for my sake, but for theirs. They needed to see the daughter they had underestimated. I sent a casual email. I'm finishing my program next month. There's a small graduation ceremony if you want to come. I didn't mention Stanford. I didn't mention honors. I certainly didn't mention the job offer that would change my life. Graduation day arrived with perfect California weather. I spotted my family taking seats near the back, looking slightly uncomfortable in Stanford's prestigious atmosphere. They had no idea they should have been in the reserve section where name cards had been placed for scholarship recipients' families. As the ceremony began, my heart pounded. Years of planning were about to reach their culmination. We'd like to recognize this year's recipient of the Harrison Excellence Scholarship for Outstanding Achievement, the dean announced. This student maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA while conducting groundbreaking research in behavioral economics and securing one of only 3 positions offered globally by McKinsey Company's strategic consulting division. I watched my parents' faces transform from casual interest to confusion to shock. Please join me in congratulating Alexandra Chen. The applause was thunderous as I walked across the stage. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father blinked rapidly as if trying to process what he was seeing. Jessica's expression was unreadable. But the real surprise came when the dean continued. Alexandra has also been selected to deliver our closing remarks as this year's outstanding graduate. This hadn't been planned. The original speaker had fallen ill, and I had been asked to step in just hours earlier. Standing at the podium, I looked directly at my family. Thank you, Dean Martinez. I'm honored to represent Stanford's MBA class today. My journey here wasn't traditional. I didn't come from wealth or connections. In fact, for many years, I was told explicitly that I wasn't capable of this level of achievement. I saw my mother shift uncomfortably. I worked multiple jobs to fund my undergraduate education. I studied late into the night after exhausting shifts. I saved every penny while watching others, including family members, receive opportunities one could only dream of. But today isn't about resentment. It's about resilience. It's about proving that your starting point doesn't determine your destination. The audience applauded, unaware of the personal drama unfolding within my words. After the ceremony, my parents approached with expressions somewhere between pride and bewilderment. Stanford, my father said slowly. You've been at Stanford this whole time? Before I could answer, Dr. Williams appeared at my side with his wife. Alexandra, congratulations. We couldn't be prouder. 2 years of absolute excellence. Dr. Williams was my mentor and scholarship recommender. I explained to my parents. Along with the McKinsey partners who'll be joining us for dinner tonight. Dinner? My mother asked weakly. I've made reservations at the French Laundry. I thought we should celebrate properly. The drive to Napa Valley was tense. Jessica finally broke the silence. So you've been lying to us? Pretending to struggle while you were actually succeeding at Stanford. I never lied, I replied calmly. I said I was taking courses in the Bay Area. I just didn't specify which institution. But why wouldn't you tell us? My mother demanded. We're your family. We can discuss that at dinner. The French Laundry's intimate dining room provided the perfect setting for what I had planned. I had arranged for a private table where my parents would be seated directly across from Dr. Williams and the McKinsey executives who had become my mentors. As wine was poured and appetizers served, my parents tried to claim credit for my success. We always encouraged her independence, my father told Dr. Williams. Made her self-sufficient. Self-sufficient indeed, Dr. Williams replied. Working 3 jobs while maintaining perfect grades requires extraordinary determination. You must be very proud. I waited until the main course before revealing the truth. Speaking of pride, I said, reaching for the folder I'd placed beside my chair, I think it's time we discussed how I actually got here. The table fell silent. You've spent tonight implying you supported my education. That's not revisionist history. It's complete fiction. I removed documents from my folder. This is a copy of Grandma's will, leaving $150,000 specifically for my education. Money you told me didn't exist when I was accepted to Stanford. Dr. Williams studied the document with professional interest while my parents sat frozen. This is your bank statement from that same year, I continued, sliding another paper across the table. Over $400,000 in investments and savings. Hardly the financial hardship you claimed. My mother's face had gone pale. And this, I said, presenting credit card statements, shows Jessica's USC expenses. In 1 semester, you spent more on her sorority fees and shopping than I earned in a year. Jessica looked stricken. Is this true? My father tried to regain control. Alexandra, you're oversimplifying complex financial decisions. Then let me simplify, I replied. You had the money for my education. You chose not to use it. Instead, you spent my inheritance on family vacations and Jessica's lifestyle while telling me I needed to be more realistic about my dreams. The McKinsey executives exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable but unable to leave without appearing rude. Why? Jessica asked our parents, her voice small. Why would you treat us so differently? The question hung in the air, the same one I'd been asking myself for years. My father, cornered and defensive, finally snapped. Because Alexandra never needed our help. She was always perfect, always capable. It made us feel unnecessary as parents. Jessica needed us. His raw honesty silenced the table. In his anger, he had revealed the truth I'd never fully understood. My competence had threatened them, and they had punished me for it. I needed you too, I said softly. I just learned not to show it, because you never responded when I did. The dinner ended shortly after. As we prepared to leave, Jessica lingered behind. I didn't know, she said, her voice trembling, about any of this. I believed them when they said they were sacrificing for my education. I know, I replied. This isn't about you, Jess. It's about them and the choices they made. She hesitated. Will you teach me? How to be independent, like you. For the first time in years, my sister was asking for my help rather than our parents. Yes, I said. I'd like that. The weeks following that dinner brought a storm of texts and voicemails from my parents, defensive anger followed by tearful apologies. I let most go unanswered, needing time to process everything. Jessica, surprisingly, reached out differently. She moved out of the expensive apartment our parents had been funding, found roommates, and got an entry-level job at a marketing firm. It doesn't pay much, she told me during one of our now regular coffee dates, but it's mine. I earned it. The pride in her voice was something I'd never heard before. 6 months later, my life had transformed completely. I was thriving at McKinsey, already recognized as one of their most promising new consultants. My San Francisco apartment, which I could comfortably afford, had become a sanctuary. The most profound change was in my family relationships. I established clear boundaries with my parents, limited contact on my terms, with explicit expectations for respectful treatment. My father was more receptive to these boundaries than my mother, calling weekly for genuine conversations about my work and life. "I'm proud of you, Alex," he said during one such call. I should have said that years ago. My mother's journey toward accountability moved more slowly, still occasionally slipping into old patterns before catching herself. The biggest surprise was Jessica's transformation. She flourished in her independence, revealing intelligence and creativity that had been hidden beneath our parents' low expectations. We were building a relationship that had never been possible when trapped in our assigned roles of golden child and scapegoat. A year after graduation, at my grandmother's 90th birthday celebration, the first family gathering since the Revelation dinner, the new dynamics were clearly visible. My parents no longer dominated conversations or automatically centered attention on Jessica. She spoke confidently about her work, no longer playing helpless princess. During the toast to my grandmother, my grandfather added an unexpected note. "I'm also raising a glass to my granddaughters, Alex and Jessica, two remarkable young women who found their own paths in life." Later, as the party wound down, my mother found me alone on the terrace. "I may never be the mother you deserved," she said carefully, "but I'm trying to be better than I was." It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was acknowledgement. Perhaps that was a starting point. Driving home that night, I reflected on the journey. The pain of family betrayal had forced me to discover strengths I might never have known I possessed. The necessity of independence had driven me to build a life entirely on my terms. I had wanted revenge, to see my parents' faces when they realized what they had lost, what they had underestimated. I had achieved that moment of reckoning. But what surprised me was how empty victory felt compared to the peace that came with acceptance. Not acceptance of their treatment, but acceptance that I couldn't change the past or force them to become the parents I had deserved. True freedom hadn't come from revenge, but from financial independence, from building relationships with people who valued me, and from releasing my need for validation from those who had proven incapable of providing it. Family relationships can be redefined, restructured, and rebuilt according to how healthy they can become. Some bonds had been strengthened through this process. My relationship with Jessica had become one of the most rewarding parts of my life. Others had been revealed as too damaged to fully repair, but I was learning to be at peace with that reality too. I established a college fund for any future children in our family, ensuring no one would ever again be denied educational opportunities due to favoritism or financial manipulation. Breaking cycles sometimes requires those who were harmed to be the ones who stop the pattern. My story isn't about getting even with family members who wronged me. It's about building a life so successful and fulfilling that past injustices lose their power to define your worth. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well despite those who doubted you. The girl who was told she wasn't worth investing in became a woman who invested in herself. The daughter who was deemed less deserving built a career, helping others achieve their potential. The sister who was overlooked created her own spotlight. Your worth isn't determined by how your family sees you, but by how you see yourself and what you choose to build with your life. Sometimes that's the most important lesson of all.